Cody Buchanan, head coach of Guerrilla Wrestling Club, and we're continuing our series of interviews with our outgoing seniors as they move on past high school and high school wrestling and into their futures, whether academic, workforce, armed forces, athletic, whatever they're doing. As I've kind of said in previous videos, if you haven't watched, a lot of these are about getting a snapshot of where they're at right now, learning about their experience through their wrestling experience itself, and then what their plans are to go forward. Today, this is my first interview that I'm doing today. I have a four-time state place winner, going fourth, second, third, and finally winning a state title this past year at 195 pounds in class single A. The first state champion from Blooming Prairie, Minnesota. I have Colton Krell with me here. Colton, how's it going today, man?
Not too bad. Actually, I mean, I hate to say it, but, the Blooming Prairie Hayfield thing, do you know who Todd Walking Stick is?
I don't
know if you know
Great
Otana.
name.
Okay, yeah, no kidding. So he's a guy from Otana who does a whole bunch of interviews, but no, I had to correct him on this. Blooming Prairie Hayfield, we don't like to be known as two different teams. Or two different towns when we wrestle. It's all one town. So
Okay.
as of right now, it's Westfield.
Yes. So you are another state champion in the Westfield.
Yeah. I'm the first. Yeah.
Oh, you are the first from Westfield, technically.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Awesome. And I mean, a lot of other kind of cool accolades that Colton has done. I mean, he was third at preseason nationals one year. He's wrestled on some Storm dual teams and things like that. One of the things I love about Colton, he comes to scrap, always wants extra time, always wants to go live, sometimes to his detriment because we're trying to drill and learn things and he just wants to do what he wants to do. But I've kind of learned to let him learn and be creative on his own, because it is really fun to watch. But however, and this is kind of probably not a first, but one of the few rare times, Colton was on time to this interview. Colton, are you always on time to things?
Cody, we don't talk about this.
Colton has a long drive. So from where he lives to practice is usually at least 45 minutes or more. So he gets a little leeway, but I've almost gotten to the point where I tell him practice starts about 15, 20 minutes earlier than it does. So we kind of hope he shows up on time for warm-ups and everything. So what's
I'm getting better. I'm getting a lot better.
You started showing up on time towards the end of the folk style season. I was pretty impressed.
I know.
So what's quarantine life like for you? What are you doing for training? What's going on?
Training, I mean, I rolled out the wrestling mats that I have yesterday and just kind of got a little roll around in when my dad wanted to wrestle with me. And I got a buddy that I just kind of rolled around with. And other than that, I mean, it's just running. I can't really find anything else to do.
Okay. And so what I've been doing with these, I kind of space it out into pictures or to different times in your wrestling career or your wrestling experience. What's your first memory? What got you into wrestling? What happened? How did you get into the sport?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I don't really remember that because I was like 4. So, I mean, I started wrestling, very first year that I ever could. And, yeah, I mean, my dad wrestled in high school way back before the wheel. And my older brother wrestled. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that just they just threw me in it and took a long time for me to get good at it. I mean, it took until 5th grade where I started even 500. I was young and I didn't want to really do anything. And I was I still am unathletic, but, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to quit actually in like 3rd grade. I was horrible at it. The worst kid out on the mat you could possibly imagine. And then I grew up a little bit, I guess.
And kind of talking with some of your other, club mates and things, they had similar experiences with like, man, there was a lot of times where I was like, I'm ready to be done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But coincidentally, they're all happy that they stuck it out.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's kind of what's killing a lot of the sport is, it's tough. And, unless you really like it, it's tough to keep doing it.
Yeah, and it's tough to see the light at the end of that tunnel. And with the kind of gap or the divide between the kids who are hardcore from a young age and the kids who try to come in a little bit later, yeah, we're finding it. It's creating a big gap, but then it's also kind of hurting numbers. But according to the National Federation, like our numbers keep going up. So either some of these high school coaches are getting creative with how they put those numbers in, or um, something's working because we keep growing and we keep finding things. They decided yesterday they weren't going to cut a weight class. That was a talk for a while that they were going to go down to 13 or go to 12. But it sounds like they haven't made a decision on that yet. Talk about your family a little bit. Older brother, heck of a wrestler.
Yeah, he was okay. No big deal. No, I mean, he took, I want to say, so he took fourth as a freshman, same just like I did. And then he got second, so sophomore year, he, for Blooming, got hurt, like tore his ACL, meniscus, something like that. He had bad joints. But, yeah, so junior year, went to Owatonna, got second. And then senior year, finally pulled it off at 89. So back in the day before they changed the weights.
Hey, let's not back in the day that I wrestled in the days where 189 was the thing. But
Cody, that's back in the day.
That is back in the day. I'm learning that more and more here. Yeah, so you come from wrestling stock and you kind of grew up throughout the sport.
Mm-hmm.
As you've grown through it, who are some people you've kind of looked up to or people that you kind of hold in high regard?
Definitely, definitely my older brother. And I mean, he's always been my big driver, and I've always tried to top him in what he does. And so far, haven't really been able to do that, which is upsetting, but oh well. Looking to keep doing that. I mean, he went to college and wrestled for the Air Force, so I'm looking to do that.
Awesome. So coming from where you started in the sport, the next kind of step that I go on a lot of these interviews is when you kind of started coming into our program or my program, Guerrilla Wrestling Club. I'm thinking it was prior to 9th grade. I think you were in 8th grade going in.
Yep, it was 8th grade summer.
And
yeah, that was the year before. That was the year before Westfield actually was like created or put together, and that's why. Morgan got me into that. Morgan Moreno, he's the one who brought me in. I had no idea. So you got to do a better job promoting your club, Cody.
Every single interview I started with, well, I came in with this guy. We had Owen on. He came in when Jared was coming around. We had Derek in. I don't know how. Derek had a couple of Lake City kids coming before him. T obviously got brought along by Mike Nelson and Reed Sealhammer. Stookie kind of came in the same time as Marks, and that was about the same time that you were coming in too. We got a whole influx of talent, raw, but talent, and a bunch of kids who really loved the sport of wrestling and wanted to work. That was a fun time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's the biggest way or the fastest way to make it grow. You just got to have this person bring, his buddy in and keeps going.
And that's a big plus of it. I had the same discussion with T yesterday. Like as much as I worry about numbers and promotion and marketing and blah, 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 like I know I'm going to have the right people in because of what the people ahead of time did.
Yeah. Yeah. Quality over quantity.
So what's your kind of thinking back throughout, high school, middle school? When did you feel like you kind of made your breakthrough? When did you feel like, hey, this is a sport I care about. I feel like I can move on it.
Well, okay, so 4th grade, like I said, I was still pretty bad, not even quite 500. And then 5th grade, I started getting a little better. I started getting a little aggressive, and I was kind of a little bully out there, even though I was still kind of unathletic and really bad at really bad at wrestling in general. And then 6th grade, I grew a lot. I was 135 pounds, and I was skinnier than I am now, which I mean isn't saying much, but no. But so 6th grade, I was way bigger than everybody else, and everyone says that I was really good, but I wasn't good at wrestling. I was just way too strong for everyone. And then I started going to camps, and I started learning more and more and caring more, and that's what really got me good at the whole wrestling aspect of it.
And you've always been strong. You've always had a motor when you're in shape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, so kind of the fun part of that, I mean, even when you started coming in, like Moreno's telling us like, hey, this kid's pretty tough. He's coming, we're going to bring him over tonight. And I was like, awesome. And you come in and strong. Yes. Motor, very raw.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to work on kind of tightening up the screws a little bit. But you can fix those things. You can't fix motor. You can't really, you can, but it's a lot harder to do because it's a mindset thing. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about having you come in is all of a sudden I never had to tell you that. Like you just did it. And then other people watched you and kind of like big eye, like, why is this kid still shooting when he's up 12 points?
Yeah, no, I get a lot of crap about that. You know, I'll be beating kids really badly. I mean, well, I told my coach, so, you know, it was right before the state finals, and he was saying, you know, just get the win. And I told him, I said, if I'm winning by 1 point, I'm still going to shoot on his legs. I'm still going to shoot on him. Like, I mean, in the last 8 seconds, he was running after me, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to get a stalling call on this. So I shot it on his legs and wrapped it up and held on.
And again, that's another thing I've talked about with a couple other kids too. Is like, you know, and sometimes I catch a hard time for coaching like this, and they're, well, we have the lead. Why are we putting ourselves at risk? Like, man, we get 6 minutes to share our passion for this sport and score as many points as we possibly can. Like, and yes, like state finals, very important. Like you want to win that match, but at the end of the day, it's about becoming the best wrestler you can.
Yeah. I'm not going to look bad doing it. I don't want to run away. And, you know, I mean, especially when they're running after you, I mean, it's just, you're not putting yourself in any danger as long as you know what you're doing.
So I'm guessing I know the answer to this question already, but favorite wrestling memory throughout your career?
Well, you know, you could say winning state, but that would be not completely correct.
Okay.
Actually, I'd say like freshman year, God, I mean, I would have been like ranked 6 or something like that my freshman year. And back then, I really paid attention to that. Like, oh, you know, this is really cool, blah, 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 because I was never ranked before that, right? And there's a kid from Sewer Henderson in my same section, ranked number 1, right? And we wrestled them for team at our home, you know, in Blooming. And huge upset with the match right before that. And, you know, the crowd's just nuts. You couldn't find a place to stand in there. I mean, the most packed that gym has ever been. Basketball, volleyball, anything, right? Just packed. And he wins that. You know, the crowd goes just nuts, and I can't hear anything. And I go out there, have to wrestle the number 1 ranked kid in the state. I ended up beating him by like, I think it was like 2 or 3 points. And, you know, the whole thumbs up thing after the state title, that's where it came from, freshman year. That's why I didn't know what to do with myself. I had no idea what to do with myself. I was just so excited. Yeah.
Muted, but you know, sometimes understated is better.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking over your whole entire career. This is kind of the advice portion of my little Q&A. If you could pick out like a favorite piece of advice or a life lesson that you've gained from wrestling sometime throughout the experience, what would you say is probably your favorite or the most important and impactful for you?
So like the biggest life lesson?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I thought about that, and honestly, when you look at it, you think you're done, and you're really not. Like, I learned a lot of that when I was cutting some weight. I mean, you know, you kind of sit there and you think you can't go any further, but you really can. I mean, it's all mindset. You know, it's just, you just gotta toughen up a little bit and just get it over with.
I was listening to, I think it was Dennis Hall, or I was reading something of his the other day. It said something like, why does everybody think they're gonna drop dead working too hard? You know, you're gonna pass out long before you drop dead.
Yeah, no, that's true.
that made me chuckle. He's a different cat, but I like listening to some of the stuff he puts out there. Thinking of like a new wrestler, somebody just joining the sport, whether it's high school, youth, what's a piece of advice you'd give them?
Well, I mean, not one coach is right. Not one coach is going to be 110% right all the time. You know, you have to have like 30 plus different coaches. You know, there's always new advice, more advice. There's always new things you can learn, new things you can do. Well, when I look at it, you know, my wrestling style didn't come from one person. It came from probably 15 different coaches, you know, and kids and different wrestlers. Like my brother taught me a lot of the underhooks, the headlocks. My coach taught me a lot of the single legs. I don't know. My stand-up's always been my brother's. The top, I mean, it was a combination of like 6 different coaches. I mean, it's just, you know, you can never learn too much.
Yeah, and I think, you know, sometimes we want to make everything black and white. This is right, this is wrong. This is how you do it, this isn't how you do it. And even as a club coach, like, you know, my job's kind of to not only expose you guys to different things and show you different ways, but, you know, if you do something in your high school room all the time, like, I'm not going to change that. Like, if you're a single leg kid, my goal isn't to teach you how to do a high crotch to the point where it's your number one leg attack and
Yeah.
you're going to get perfect at it.
You just change what you do slightly, little tiny corrections, and you make it better all the time.
And that's what you're talking about, getting it from all these different coaches to where, you just keep adding to the toolbox a little bit. What if you could give yourself as a younger wrestler a piece of advice? What would you tell yourself?
It's not as hard as you think. That's honestly what it would be. It's honestly what it would be.
Sometimes it's hard to remember that as you're in the moment, ain't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But it's all worth it in the end.
Looking toward your future, you told me off camera that, your plan is to wrestle in college. Not quite sure where you're leading to college yet, but do you have an idea on major, weight class, what you're going to be doing as far as that type of stuff?
As far as like weight class, I'm thinking 84. This year I was 95 and I was a little on the chunkier side. I mean, I'm sure, you know that obviously. And I'm sure a lot of people. Hey, yeah, just a little, Cody. I wouldn't talk. No, so I'm thinking 84. I've never really lifted weights consistently, only for football, only when I'm really forced to. So, I mean, I feel like I'm going to grow a little bit, muscle mass wise. And I don't know. I think 84 is going to be really, really good for me. As far as major, I'm kind of stuck in between electrical engineering and just business.
Okay.
So,
and before we go anywhere else, I do want to talk. So, kind of a fun little quirk story about you. Not originally a football kid.
God, no.
Went out for cross country at one point, correct?
My 10th grade year, I went out for cross country.
I actually ran into pictures of you in cross country. I don't know. I think I was looking to see how to spell your name correctly so I didn't mess it up on Twitter. And then I saw pictures of you running cross country and I laughed hysterically. And then now that you bring up the whole football thing, how did you get involved in football? Talk about the deal you've made, because we've talked about this previously, obviously, but talk about the deal you made in order to kind of help out your program a little bit.
Well, I mean, my grade's always been really good at football, and I've played football since I was what, 3rd grade when I started playing football, right? Loved it, all the way to freshman year, and I was like, this sucks. I'm not doing this. This is pointless. We had 3-hour practices, and I just said, screw this, right? Go out for cross country, just loved it. I loved cross country. Even though I'm like really, really big compared to every single other kid out there, I just loved it. But, yeah, no. So then the next year, the year after, they didn't have like the amount of linemen that they wanted and like the correct kids, I guess you could say, and they needed to fill up the line more. And so a lot of my guys were, pretty nervous about their year because, I mean, they had a lot of potential right there, right? We made it to the state semifinals my junior year. And, so I just made a deal. I went out there and made a deal for my program. So basically I just brought some kids out. I said, I'll go out for football if you go out for wrestling, right? And I guess they didn't do much in wrestling, but it was worth it either way. Extra kids to beat up.
And that's kind of the fun of, smaller town sports too. Like, what's hard, especially as a club coach, right? I get kids from gigantic schools where they might only play one sport and specialize. And then I have kids from Blooming Prairie who, you kind of have to play 2 or 3 sports to keep the school alive or the athletic program alive.
Exactly.
That's always a fun little side story I like about that. One thing you don't know about these interviews is that every kid towards the end gets a question from the previous interview, and then they have to give a question for the next person that I interview. So the last person I interviewed was T. He didn't know who was coming after him. And he asked, if you had got to pick a warm-up game, what would be your game of choice?
Oh, I don't know, probably the dodgeball, or not the dodgeball, but the baseball one.
Nope.
All the way.
Home roller baseball. Fantastic game. We had a conversation about foam roller baseball yesterday. T and I did. Just to give you the evolution of how this question thing came up. I talked to Owen, and he asked what somebody's toughest loss was, and to talk through it. The second person I interviewed was Derek Meinke, who had plenty of tough losses. So he actually had a lot to talk about there. I love Derek, so I can say that to him. Derek asked, who was your favorite practice partner? Which is another fantastic question. That got to Joe Stuckey. Stuckey answered somebody else from Plainview, and T was a little bit disappointed. It's like, what do you mean? I wasn't your favorite practice partner? It felt like some middle school dance stuff. It was comical. And now I got you telling me about warm-up games. I need to know, what's your question for the next person?
Oh, shoot. You kind of put me on the spot here.
Yes, that's the fun of it.
Well, I mean, I had a funny one, but I wasn't going to share that. I'd say, I mean, shoot. Favorite I don't want to say favorite tournament because that's just kind of like bland.
Well, I tell you what, if you come up with one, you can text it to me. I'm not interviewing the next person until like 3:00 today.
Perfect. I'll have to let you know.
Awesome.
That's hard to come up with one.
It is, and like I said, it was tough for Derek too. His is gonna look kind of funny when I watch it. Like the video will show him thinking for 20 seconds. Kind of wrapping things up here. I want to give everybody a chance to let you thank who you want to thank. For me personally, I thank you a lot. You know, you've come in, you've done a lot. You're always willing to take a partner who maybe doesn't have the accolades or the level that you're at or the size that you're at. You get the absolute most out of every workout you possibly can. And as a coach, as a club coach especially, that's all I can ask. So I really appreciate everything you've done for our program. But now I'm going to turn it over to you for anybody who you want to thank, excluding myself and the rest of the coaches at Guerrilla Wrestling Club.
Discluding?
Discluding. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm
going to undisclude because I want to thank you, Cody, for having that room there. Because I mean, I improved a ton over the summer. Like over the summers, it was crazy. I mean, you would not believe it. I don't know if you noticed it, but you would not believe it. And I mean, I really felt it. You know, from year to year, I could tell that I was picking up just little tiny things here and there. And I mean, I knew it was from the summer wrestling, right? I mean, you do a great job there. But yeah, no, I definitely like to thank, you know, both my parents, of course. You know, I mean, they're hauling me everywhere. Especially my dad. You know, my dad loves to watch me wrestle. I mean, I don't know how much you know about that, but he loves to watch me. So I mean, he's brought me. I mean, yeah, to the duels. I mean, he sent me to Virginia. Brings me down. Or used to bring me down to Iowa all the time for big national tournaments. I mean, it was a great time, right? You know, both my head coaches, you know, Bloom Prairie Hayfield head coaches, awesome people, both awesome to work with, and both have their different, you know, technique. Hey, what are you doing? Sorry, I have one of the renter kids in here. Yeah, no, where was I? Hey, don't believe that. Where
both
was
your
I?
coaches.
Oh,
they have different things about them, but you appreciate them both.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, well, my sister, I have to mention her. Also, she'll you know, chew me out. But yeah, no, she always makes my highlight videos. I don't know if you've watched that. Have you?
I have. She does an awesome job with both those and the pictures and everything.
Yep. She does a really awesome job. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could just say my entire family. You know, they're always there for me. They're always watching. They're always rooting for me. That means a lot. But yeah, no, and I mean Westfield, the whole crowd. I mean, for two wrestlers, you know, Dylan Nurk and I, we both went up, you know, up to the XL, and we had a huge crowd just to watch us.
Yeah, I mean, that is really cool to watch. Yeah.
I mean, we have such a huge fan base here. You know, it's unreal. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess thank you for your time, and for anybody watching. Like I said, we're gonna do one more interview this afternoon, and when we get these put up, everybody will get to see different things about our seniors. But once again, thank you for your time, Colton. Thank everybody else watching, and have a good rest of your day.
Ain't nobody really than Gorilla. Ain't nobody really than Gorilla. I said, ain't nobody really than Gorilla. Ain't nobody really than Gorilla.